So today, we're going to dive deep into a book that truly flips modern psychology on its head. It's called The Courage to be Disliked, and it takes the incredible ideas of psychologist Alfred Adler to challenge pretty much everything you thought you knew about happiness, trauma, and what it means to be free.
Okay, so let's kick things off with a question I think pretty much all of us have asked ourselves at some point. We want to improve, we want to be different, but we just feel stuck. Why is that? Why is changing so darn hard? Well, the conventional answer, the one made super popular by Freudian psychology, is that it's all about our past. You know the story. Our childhood, our traumas, our past experiences, they're the blueprint for who we are today. It's a simple cause and effect story, and honestly, it can feel kind of comforting. But here's where this book just throws a total wrench in that way of thinking. It makes this incredibly bold, almost unbelievable claim. Your past has zero, and I mean zero, power to determine your future. The whole focus shifts from what happened to you to what are you going to do about it right now. Let's really get into this. The very first big idea here, the first step towards freedom, is that we have to break free from what the book calls the tyranny of the past. This means we have to completely rethink the connection between where we've been and who we are right now. Adlerian psychology just flips the whole script. Look at this comparison here. On one side, you have Freud's ideology, which is all about finding the past cause for a present problem. It asks, why? But on the other side, you've got Adler's teleology, which is the study of purpose. It doesn't care about why. It asks a much more powerful question. What for? What is the goal of this behavior? Okay, and this right here, this is probably the book's most provocative, most mind-bending claim. Adler flat out denies that trauma in itself determines our lives. The implication is just staggering. It means no experience, no matter how awful, is the cause of how we turn out. I mean, think about that. It puts the ball right back in our court. Today. So you see, the power isn't really in what happened to you. It's about the story you decide to tell yourself about it right now. You are the one holding the pen. So if our past doesn't control us, then what about our current unhappiness? Where does that come from? All right, so if our past isn't to blame for how we feel right now, then where does all this stuff, the anxiety, the fear, the anger, where does it come from? Well, Adler's answer is kind of shocking. We choose it. We create these emotions ourselves to serve a purpose. So Adler has this concept he calls lifestyle. And no, he's not talking about your interior design choices. He's talking about your core worldview, your personality. And here's the kicker. He says this isn't something you're born with. It's something you chose, probably around the age of 10. And the best part, you can choose to change it at any given moment. Right? So that leads to the obvious question. If it's a choice, why on earth would anyone choose to be unhappy or anxious? Well, according to Adler, it's because that unhappiness is actually useful. It's serving some kind of hidden purpose for you. The book gives this perfect example of a student who has a crush on someone, but is terrified of her blushing problem. From Adler's point of view, her real goal is to avoid the potential pain of rejection. So, without even realizing it, she invents the fear of blushing. It becomes the perfect get-out-of-jail-free card, the reason she can't confess her feelings, which protects her from ever getting hurt. And it's the exact same idea with anger. Adler says it's not some uncontrollable force that just takes over. Nope. It's a tool we pull out of the box when we want to make someone bend to our will without having to go through the trouble of a real conversation. Hey, and just a quick pause here. If you're finding this as mind-blowing as I did, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you know someone who's wrestling with these kinds of ideas, share this with them. It might just be the perspective shift they need. All right, let's get back to it. So once you start seeing emotions and unhappiness as tools, it leads to another one of Adler's huge foundational ideas about where our problems really come from. Get ready for this one. Adler basically says that all our problems, every single one, are problems of interpersonal relationships. I mean, think about it. Feelings of loneliness, anxiety, inferiority, they can't exist in a vacuum. They only pop up when we're around other people. And that even includes that feeling of inferiority we all get. But here's where Adler does something really clever. He says that feeling isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, a healthy feeling of inferiority, that gap between who I am now and who I want to be, is the very engine of human progress and striving.
Okay, now you really got to pay attention to this slide because the distinction it makes is absolutely crucial. On the one hand, you have a healthy feeling of inferiority. It's a launch pad. It says, I'm not good enough yet, so I'm going to work harder. But on the other hand, you have an inferiority complex. That's when you start using it as an excuse. I'm not smart enough, so I can't even try. It's the difference between fuel for growth and a reason to give up.
So, if we accept this idea that all our problems are about other people, then the solution has to be in changing how we see them, right? How we see our place in the world.
Think about it. So many of us are stuck in this competition mindset. We see life like a giant ladder, and everyone else is either above us or below us. In this worldview, every other person is a rival, an enemy, someone to beat. And that, well, it's a recipe for constant anxiety. But Adler says, hey, what if you just stepped off the ladder? Imagine that. Instead of a vertical hierarchy, you're on a vast, flat plane. Suddenly, other people aren't competitors anymore. They're comrades. They're fellow travelers walking alongside you. And when you do that, everything changes. The goal is no longer about scrambling to get ahead of someone else. The goal is simply to be a little bit better than the you of yesterday. And suddenly, someone else's success isn't a threat. It's something you can genuinely celebrate. Okay, so let's recap. We've talked about how your past doesn't define you, how we choose our emotions, and how all our problems are really about relationships. But knowing all this isn't enough. Putting it into action takes one final, absolutely critical thing. And this might be a tough pill to swallow, but the book argues that a lot of us choose to stay unhappy. Why? Because it's familiar. It's safe. The thought of actually changing our entire lifestyle, our whole way of seeing the world, is terrifying. Staying miserable in a weird way is just easier. This quote from Adler just sums it all up perfectly. It doesn't matter what cards you were dealt. It doesn't matter what your starting point was. The only thing that matters, the only thing, is what you decide to do with what you've got, right here and right now. In the end, this book doesn't give you a simple checklist for happiness. It leaves you with a challenge. It says, the reason you're not happy isn't because you can't be. It's because you lack the courage to be disliked for walking your own path, the courage to stop making excuses, the courage to be free. Wow, what a powerful set of ideas, right? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. If you want to explore these concepts even further, and I highly recommend you do, I put links to The Courage to be Disliked in the description below. Go grab a copy, it's a total game changer. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next explainer. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.
If you like this video, consider subscribing to the channel and let me know in the comments what other content you'd like to see here. The link to purchase this book is below in the description. Thank you, and see you next time.